Well, I guess today was it's an amazing day, but also it's a bit disappointing because when you look at the entirety of the Louvre, the masterpieces exposed in the exhibit, there is nothing to identify blackness. So it gives someone of my um, of my capacity, a sense of challenge, because we artists, and when I was growing up, I studied art. I studied this art. I studied all of this, and to me, it's seeing them for the first time, real live. But I know each and every one and how they were made. What was the mindset behind them? But it never dawned to me, aside from now that I'm here, that in all of this greatness, there is nothing that reflects to black art. But it is important that as an artist, the freedom of speech, the freedom of that I have, I can speak of this, because this is Italian Renaissance. There are many more. I don't need to even film them because it's a bit depressing, because you realize you are not represented. Not because they didn't want to represent you, because the intention was to be annihilated. So said one of the emperors, to annihilate the black race from the face of the earth. I know it's depressing, but I'm an artist. I cannot stay without saying it. I cannot be here enjoying this magnificent moment without. So I'm calling to you, artists of color. It is time you too begin to represent your culture. It is very important that you begin to be positive and show things of beauty. There are lots of these paintings that are tragic paintings, sacrifice of Christ, and the majority of them are religious. But however painful, as you can see in this painting here, Artemisia, it is a painful scene. They're cutting the head off this fellow. But it is a painting shown with taste. We are sometimes afraid to show, this is beautiful, powerful paintings. We are sometimes afraid to show our tragedy. But it is sometimes in our tragedy that we can show greatness. This painting is showing something terrible. It's by Lionel Spada. Anyway, I just thought I'll mention this. There is time so many rich black people, Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, merde. All that money, what do you do with it? What do you do to recognize your own kind? These people, this is not intentional. I'm saying this because this is not intentional. This is a civilization. This is what these people, this is who they are. We have all this money, all this grandeur. Instead of buying fancy cars, I see so many black people living in the street. I see so many rich people with fancy cars, but yet have apartments renting. What have you done for the society of which you are part of? Greatness is not limited. Greatness is for all of us. You see, let me give you an idea. Portrait d'homme de l'époque de la tétrarchie, the hierarchy period, right? The hierarchy period, I believe we are at the hierarchy period, where you are able to do whatever you wish, whatever you want. For me to come all the way over here to realize that I'm a minuscule in history. It is not your world. You have to make it your world. Part of you, build a building instead of celebrating your blackness once a year because it is dictated by some government. Instead of having some, what's his name, DeSantis, telling you whether you could teach your history. Look at this grandeur. We have the ability to do the same. This is greatness. But what have you done? In my country alone, it's been 221 years of freedom. In America, after Jim Crow, maybe 60, 70 years. But we have people with enough money that could build an empire, that could build a museum to this magnitude. And this is important to be said. This is a lesson in history, for me, an eye-opener. Because when I studied art, it was I was told black art was naive. It was almost a negative thing to be, an impossible thing to be an artist. Instead of celebrating, there's nothing wrong with Martin Luther King, but it is time we stop that. There's nothing wrong with Malcolm X, but is that the only hero that we have? What of the greatness of Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines? I know there was a man named Marcus Garvey. I know there were so many great people. But how do you... Man, it's almost sad to even come here. I think I'm just gonna go to the Arc de Triomphe and take it easy there. I don't need to visit what I already know. Nothing wrong with having recognized your greatness, mind you. But what about you, black people? What have you done? You folks don't even support each other. You don't even buy each other's art. How can you build something so magnificent, so well preserved, so respected? So many people of all nationalities are here to visit the Louvre. No, wait. Wow. I've seen the Mona Lisa. It's a tiny painting. I always knew that. But seeing it up close, I've taught my students to do that in a week. What are we doing? So our children could take a plane to go somewhere, to a Louvre of the sort that features black history, not the violence. And you know something? Seeing those paintings, I'm glad I came. Because I'm going to start painting realism, historical. And I'm glad I've been doing that for the past several years of my life. Painting historical paintings has always been my life. You know, I live this as a testament. Look at this masterpiece. This is amazing. So of all the paintings here, look at this. I should take a picture and create it. See, it didn't even take showing anything historical, anything white. There's nothing wrong with showing anything white, mind you, white people. It's not always about racism. But if we don't start realizing us, realizing our importance, then we are a dying race. Very sad.